us.
Thank you, Linda. It's my pleasure. A real pleasure to be here.
This is exciting. I think you guys have done a great job in advancing the HR profession and the recognition of our CPHR designation. We've got lots of credibility. So I think it's a nice time maybe just to tell us a little bit about yourself and the CPHR.
Sure. Of course. So yes, my name is Anthony Ariganello, and I'm the CEO of both the BC and Yukon Association, as well as the National Association. I've been doing that for 3 years as well. And we're very proud of our profession, and our members, I think, are really proud to carry that designation as well, and that we've made so many inroads with respect to affecting how HR practitioners today practice their overall profession. So we're really proud of those momentous events, if we can say that.
Anthony, a lot of our clients are telling us, and we're hearing it from a lot of our employers as well, is that HR needs to be more strategic, and they really would like to see them be a partner in the business. And you and I have talked about this. What do we have to do?
I think one of the key important trends, I would say, is that for practitioners to be more involved and to actually be heard. Get a seat at the table. I think if they're waiting for their CEOs or COOs to call them, it doesn't happen that way. It really doesn't happen by osmosis. It has to happen by leadership. And I think our practitioners today, we encourage them to take a seat, say you have a position. And also another big thing, and we're actually enhancing our competency framework with respect to business acumen. HR practitioners need to understand more than just HR. It's one thing to understand and I call it the basic blocking and tackling of human resources, but today it's much more strategic and understanding how it affects the other elements of business, whether it be sales or operations or marketing or finance. That really then rounds out an HR professional, and then they're deemed as, hey, you know what? They can contribute significantly, and they're invited in because they have that business acumen side. So we really encourage that.
Mel Robbins said something interesting in her presentation, and she said, you have to be visible. And it's so true, right?
Absolutely.
You have to be visible. People have to know you're doing something.
Exactly. And so when I say take a seat, don't wait for it to happen.
Yes.
Volunteer and say, you know what? I want to attend these meetings, even though it has nothing to do with human resources.
Yes.
I want to sit in because I think I can contribute. And then you're seen as a true leader.
Absolutely. One of the things with the CPHR Association is one of your initiatives is the self-regulation.
Yes.
How's that going to move the HR profession forward?
Well, as we've seen with other provinces who are self-regulated, specifically Ontario and Quebec, who've had self-regulation and legislation for a number of years, it's about protecting the public interest. When the government gets behind you with that stamp of approval, so to speak, and says, we're going to build it in legislation, that truly HR is not only a profession, but a designation that is renowned and can actually protect the public, we're leaving it to the association to essentially ensure that the members are regulated and overseen, and that in essence protects the public, so that government doesn't have to step in and get involved. They've got bigger fish to fry, as we know, and they don't always have the resources. So just like they've done with many other professions, like the accountants and the engineers, where they've provided that self-regulatory piece of it to the profession, we're looking to do the same, and that will really enhance the public interest and respect for the HR profession overall.
When will it happen?
We've been working with government now and because we've had a new government, things had to slow down. Under the previous regime with the Liberals here in British Columbia, we were actually very close. And then of course the election happened, and then a changeover in government. So of late, we've actually met with a number of ministers, including the Minister of Labour, Harry Baines, who's really interested in hearing more about what we have to offer. And when we say we're there to actually help facilitate the government's agenda with respect to items that affect human resources, they're very interested in hearing more. So we're hopeful that in the next 12 to 18 months, legislation can actually happen.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Okay, so a real hot topic in terms of HR is the artificial intelligence. What does it mean for HR?
Yeah.
Right?
I think, Linda, when we talk about artificial intelligence, that can be scary for many people because traditionally AI has really been about automation and helping businesses automate and as a result replace jobs or lessen people. I see it more as a trend towards business augmentation. In other words, how does AI enhance the productivity for an organization to actually deliver better services? That's the piece that we're not seeing as much as we see on the automation side. But the augmentation is really about skills. And that means then having HR leaders who have to forecast and see that through. How are we going to now train individuals to be better prepared to deal with AI? because AI is complex on its own. You're going to need individuals, for example, to program, or you're going to have to teach EQ skills to AI. How does that happen? And so I think it requires a completely different skill set, and HR leaders have to be prepared to actually embrace it more from an augmentation and skills enhancement standpoint than just about automation and replacing jobs.
So where does it start? Because it's so overwhelming.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Where does it start? Where do we start in terms of organizations that are, some of them have just turned over from getting a lot more technical?
Yeah, they are. And I think it's about embracing it. I think we fear it. We always fear change, and that is a big element of, I think naturally individuals fear change, but it's about embracing it and understanding it. I think getting caught up in understanding what is coming down the pike, so to speak, to understand what's happening and getting ready is really important. I attended an AI presentation a few years ago, and this was a few years ago, and yet it's moving so quickly in terms of the investment in AI, and it was all about continue to stay informed and understand what new technologies are out there and how can they affect a business and trends. In human resources, as an example, there will be robots that will actually do first-level interviews going forward. So that first-level screening is not going to happen by a human. In the next, I would say, probably year or so. It'll be actually done by a machine, which is scary, but think about the power behind that in terms of getting information. I mean, today social media is vast and it's hard to check if you're a human being to go out and do an exhaustive search.
Right.
A robot is going to be able to do that so easily and quickly. And I'm talking about certain key jobs where you might want to look if they have a criminal background, or is there any history associated to someone who's monitoring cash, or
So those real simple transactional
areas will probably be done by machines in terms of benefit administration, things like that, or getting information that is instantaneous. I could see, for example, a call center having a robotic assistant there, and when they're asking the question, the robot is actually searching the vast volume of information or data that a company has to be able to then supply the information to a human who will then interact with the person. I don't believe it should all be a machine that interacts with a human. I still like the idea of a human interacting with a human. I think the machine, though, can enhance the tools that then a human has to supply that information to the client. That is where I then stress the business augmentation side. That is how AI will augment services.
And you know what? Then it frees us up, I think, in terms of as true HR professionals, we can now get to the people.
Absolutely.
Right? We can deal with bigger issues
and more of the strategic element and vision and planning,
and the
as
ROIs,
opposed to
right? I mean,
correct.
we always talk about the ROIs. How do we align that with HR? Well,
right.
You know what? Now we're going to be able to.
Right.
Anthony, thank you
Linda,
so
my
much
pleasure.
for
Thank you very
joining
much
us.
for having me. Appreciate
pleasure.
that.